Good evening, year 10s. Welcome back to this week's lesson. It's an interesting session today. We'll be looking at factorizing polynomials using factor theorem. We did work on remainder and factor theorem last time, so we've done enough questions for you to get a good practice. Today we're going to look into how to factorize a given polynomial using the factor theorem. We know that the factor theorem says if PA is 0, then x minus a is a factor. So all what we got to do is we got to find a value that gives me a 0 for the given polynomial so that we can find a factor. So I'm going to give you our very first example, number 1. So we're going to go x cubed and then plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. So we need to factorize this. That's what our plan. I'm going to run through this one as a start, and then you will do exactly the same as we move on. What we have to do is, well, this is my px. X cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. We know if p of something is equal to 0, let's say if p of 1 equals to 0, then x minus 1 is a factor. Likewise, we can just work on if p of negative 1 is 0, then x plus 1 is a factor. If p of 2 equals 0, then x minus 2 is a factor. If p of negative 2 equals 0, x plus 2 is a factor. Now you can see I'm using a pattern. 1, negative 1, 2, negative 2, 3, negative 3. Merely because I just don't know what is my factor is. I'm going to start off with easy ones first and build up. So when you substitute for any given polynomial, you substitute 1 minus 1. You can clearly see when 1 and minus 1 works because the number is going to be very close and they quickly cancel with plus minus. If you have plus all the time with no minus, well, it's highly unlikely having a positive value gives you a 0. So the plus 1s, plus 2s not going to work. Therefore, you got to try negatives and negatives. But when you have plus and minus, well, we don't know whether it's a positive value or a negative value would work to make a 0. So we give it a try. And once you know one factor, then you can use that factor to divide this to find the next two. That's the plan. So let's go in here. I'm going to start off with P1. So it's a 1 cubed plus 4 times 1 squared plus 1 minus 6. Voila. 1 plus 4 plus 1 minus 6. Well, that's a legendary 0. We were lucky, weren't we? Everyone's with me? We just got through. That's good. That means you can say, just wait a minute, then I'll let you copy. Therefore, we can say x minus 1 is a factor. So I want you to focus this rather than just copying. See, if x minus 1 is a factor, then x minus 1 is a divisor of my polynomial, which is x cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. You can divide this polynomial by x minus 1 nicely. That's what it means. The factor means you can break it nicely. Now we're going to divide. We're going to look at how many x's in x cubed. That's x squared, as you know from last week or week before, the lesson before. Then x squared times x minus 1 is x cubed minus x squared. You know how to do this now. You're an expert. You take away, these two get cancelled. Negative, negative becomes positive. So that gives me 5x squared. I'm going to pull down the x and a negative 6. I don't have to. I just write it. How many x's in a 5x squared? It's a plus 5x. Then you multiply that with x minus 1. 5x squared minus 5x. When you take away, these two get cancelled. That is the purpose. You need to cancel. Negative, negative becomes positive. That gives me 6x as my answer. Then you got to pull down the negative 6, which you can do now. So you can pull down that there because we haven't used that so far. Now, how many x's in 6x? Just a 6. When you multiply x minus 1 with a 6, it's a 6x minus 6. Boom. It's 0. That's what we expected. We expect it to give me a 0 remainder. That's what it is. That's what it is. The remainder is 0. That's what it is. Remainder theorem says if you substitute a value and the remainder 0, that is actually the factor. Now we have the polynomial px being written as a linear factor, which is x minus 1, and the quotient, which is x squared plus 5x plus 6, and the remainder, which is 0. Well, that's nothing to do here. Just get rid of. Now I have factorized my polynomial. Now once I factorize, I can go a little further. That's this, and this is quadratic. Quadratic means you can factorize this one in many different ways, either the general quadratic formula or just normal simple monic quadratics or non-monic or dots. There are 4 ways you could do that. Two numbers multiplied to 6 added to 5 are plus 2 and plus 3. Voila. We factorized x to the power 3, 4x squared plus x minus 6 as x minus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. That's how you factorize the polynomial given using factor theorem. All right, I'm going to go in here again. First, you substitute a value, usually starting with a 1 or negative 1, 2, negative 2, 3, negative 3, like a pattern. Remember, this is a monic polynomial. We're going to go into non-monic later. Luckily, the first one gave us x minus 1 as a factor. Then you do the long division. You get the quadratic part, which you factorize. Right, I'll get you to copy this now and then follow the next few questions yourself.